we've discussed Protestant Reformation and Age of Discovery and all of these things, and I'm pretty sure that all of you have kind of wondered how all of this is stemming together and connecting together. Well, this is one more thing that is connecting. If you remember correctly, when we talked about the Protestant Reformation, we talked about Martin Luther and the 95 Thesis and what he did for society, we talked about the fact that when he wrote the 95 Thesis, he was writing down all the things that were wrong with the Catholic Church. Now, with that, he was also explaining to the people within his society that nothing really is at face value, that you have to learn for yourself. And they took this lesson and they ran with it in many, many ways. So after the Protestant Reformation, people began to educate themselves more instead of just following one explanation. When the Catholic Church gave reasons, they gave religious reasons for everything. Why things existed, how things came about. All of it had a religious explanation. And after the Protestant Reformation and the turmoil that Martin Luther went through to prove to the people that not everything is really as accurate as it seems, they began to educate themselves on their own and find the answers to their own questions. And so the people also began to research, or many thinkers and scientists began to research on their own for explanations and answers. Basically what began to happen is people actually started to think for themselves, both in society and in scientific ways, coming up with the answers as to actually how things took place. One of the big ages that came about was the age of the scientific revolution. It took place from 1550 to the 1700s, and it was a rediscovery of classical sciences from the Greeks and the Romans. Well, remember, we talked about the Renaissance period, and we talked about how that was an opening and a new beginning because from the Dark Ages, and they were rethinking and reimagining the ideas that the Greeks and the Romans had, and they were improving upon them. Well, with science, they did the same thing. Basically, European thinkers began searching for other explanations besides religious explanations for things. Because again, that's all they had were religious explanations. And then they started thinking, I wonder, how would this go? If we did this, if we put these two things together, what would occur? And they actually began to look at things, test things, research things, and figure things out on their own. This is something we try and teach you all every day. Now, with the scientific revolution, it was a new beginning for science. It was an age of modern science. There are techniques that we still use today that were created and founded during the scientific revolution. There are ideas on astronomy and botany, and the telescope and the microscope were invented. These are tools that we still use today. We have just improved them. And of course, the good old scientific method, which again, you all use today in your science classes, the hypothesis and the observation of things and logging it in and really reasoning it out with whatever idea that you've come up with, as well as genetics. New techniques and new technologies are created to help build the modern world and shape it through the sciences that we know of. So there are so many aspects that we look at today that we didn't necessarily realize before then. And the scientific revolution really brought that about and allowed us to look even more. Now, cause and effect of the scientific revolution? Well, cause and effect first was the Renaissance. The Renaissance period opened it up. It brought back the Roman and Greek ideas with architecture, with sculptures, with artwork, with ideas, theologies, ideologies on certain things, astronomy, botany, you name it, it came back during the Renaissance period. And as they began to study more And as they were looking at things and trying to put religion or religious answers to it, they were beginning to develop this conflict. Well, then Martin Luther comes along and nails the 95 Thesis to the door of the Catholic Church, and he says, again, the 95 Thesis of things that were wrong with the church. One of them being that not all the answers were quite as accurate as they should be. So with the Protestant Reformation, people began looking into the scientific revolution. Along with another one of the causes, the age of discovery or the age of exploration. Because new materials and new ideas helped fuel the scientific revolution. They would find these new materials and come up with these new ideas or be introduced to these new ideas along the trade routes through the age of exploration. And they brought them back to their own countries, and they used the new techniques to create the new modern sciences with the scientific revolution. So when we sum this all up, the scientific revolution, before the scientific revolution, you had churches gave religious answers and explanations for every single thing. It was all about religion, and religion controlled the society. Well, after the Protestant Reformation, religion didn't quite control the society anymore. And then when you had the absolute monarchy come about because you had the Reformation, you had England separating from the Catholic Church and becoming an Anglican church. And so the Catholic faith or the Catholic religion was really losing its ground. And with that, people were gaining the ideas to educate themselves more, to find the answers that really have never been there. So, again, before, church gave religious answers and explanations for everything. And after, scientists and thinkers began searching for other reasons or answers besides a religious answer. So through the scientific revolution, we've gained scientific methods that we still use today. New techniques, many we still use, just have improved upon, along with technologies, ideologies about science, as well as their philosophies on certain things, how the world rotates, the universe in general, and so on and so forth. All of these things from the scientific revolution that started in 1550 really have affected and shaped our world today. Now, it wasn't just science that they looked at. We're going to look more into how it really shaped societies and changed societies based on new ideas coming along. But that's for another day.